There used to be a British radio comedy, and it was a trilogy, even though it was 4 books. And it was called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Right?
Don't forget a
And,
towel.
all right, so we both have a eclectic reading list. Where I'm going with this is there's that one scene where the planet Earth is going to be destroyed, and the intergalactic bulldozers are there, and there's this big, glorious loudspeaker that when the guy talks into it, everyone across the planet can hear this in their native tongue. If you were up front of that microphone, what's that message that you'd want to be able to convey that's going to wake people up to what you're presenting them?
There's a new way of building homes in the 21st century, and it's here.
That's akin to saying you've got a better hamburger. It's got to be deeper than that. It's got to be deeper.
So I would say we're building homes fit for the 21st century. Are you tired of having your homes at risk for wildfire, flood, mold, mildew, vermin, insects? Well, you can now have homes that are free of all those things. So it's like you can truly have a fireproof and a floodproof, healthy home for your families to live in the future, and it's affordable and it's within your reach, and it's actually available now. This is not the future. This is the future now.
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Kriese. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our sponsor, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.
You know, Jake, one of the first things I've got to ask you before you do too much of a deep dive here, name of your company, Conscious Living Design.
And build.
And build. Is that almost like a play that you're saying to the rest of the industry? They're still asleep and you're that far ahead with the technology?
It kind of goes back to my solar company. My solar company is the Conscious Energy Collective. So it was something that's just been present for a bit that kind of played in well when I was looking for the build of it is, I think there is a lack of consciousness in the design because a lot of times it's just not the main focus sometimes. And so we wanted to be bringing that to the market as one of our flagships and one of our brands.
Do you find that we're kind of at an intersection right now where traditional build, I don't want to say it's under attack, but there's so much happening within technology, so many new and exciting things that are coming. Do you see that as being a challenge to the traditional build, or do you think the builders will be quick enough to adapt and embrace it?
We've been building homes the same way for 90, 100 years. So there's just the tried and true. When you're going against the norm, when you're doing something new that's almost a disruptor, there's always going to be the early adopters, the mid, and then the late adopters. So we just chose to be the early adopters in here and be the ones that are helping bring it to market and being the pioneer, taking those arrows in the back. We'll be the ones that know it better than everybody else. Because we feel in a lot of ways, a lot of people are going to try to do it at some point, but if we can figure it out now, it just gives us that leg up. It's kind of the outliers.
I was going to say, living in Colorado, part of that mountain man tradition, arrows in the back is nothing new to you guys. Manifest destiny and go west, young man. So
and then you see the mountains and you're like, you know what? I'm stopping right here.
Yeah. Let's rewind the clock a bit. Where did you start? Because you weren't always in construction.
So my degree is actually in architecture from the University of Boulder. Worked for an architect afterwards and realized pretty much you're sitting in front of a computer for 6 years before you can even take your architectural license exam. So in business, I did like 3D hand renderings for builders or developers and went a lot of different business routes and kind of stepped away from construction. Luckily, that was right around 2008-ish when everybody I went to school with all were out of a job then because construction kind of died at that point. But I was often doing other training and development and my apprenticeship in life, I guess, during the 20s, and then started my solar company back in 2018, solar on my house. And it's like, you know what? Something doesn't add up here. There could have put more panels on the roof. It wasn't offsetting the bill. Like it could be done better. Started my solar company with that philosophy and Colorado is not the market you want to try to sell solar. And it's one of the hardest, but I figured if I can't do it here, and this is where I'm born and raised, doesn't matter if I do it anywhere else. So really went down that enterprise. And then the opportunity to build the 3D printing company came up and I was like, okay, nope, this is it. And it's already in that same customer avatar, people that own homes. And then decided, okay, well, you know what? It doesn't exist. So I created a design build company that is focus on being the 3D printed to market. We can do stick build, we can do anything, but we do feel that. So like that, the company was really created with that in mind. And the team I built with Tony Schaefer, my director of construction, he's got 30 years of design building experience. He's a licensed architect, his own design build company, been doing that for 20 years. Jason August, our real estate partner and guru and client liaison, has been doing 30 years. So we built an amazing team, as well as Robert August, who I know you know, to bring this to market is really the big goal, while being able to do what everybody else does, but be the experts in this.
Well, so Robert was a part of your team?
Robert is our marketing and management consultant. He's the one that connected me with Tony and Jason and helped put a lot of the initial balls rolling for it, and look
Yeah,
forward to
that
a long
guy,
relationship with Robert.
he's like the touchstone of real estate. If there's a brick or a hammer or like, he just knows everybody and everything, it seems.
That he does. So it's been a blessing having that team, and that's really been our key. And there's other partnerships we have to figure it out. But there's people are trying to do 3D printing, but I believe we might be one of, if not the first, like true design and GC company that's mastering the technology, because it's not just the printer itself; it's everything else that goes in homes. How you're doing the roofs, the basements, the floors. There's a lot more than just the 3D printing component for fully constructing a home and doing it, and the health and wellness components, the energy efficiency components, the water conservation technology. There's a lot of other opportunities and steps to build a unique home besides just the walls. Although it can help if you know how to utilize it right. So that's really where we're putting our focus, is to truly see all the capabilities this technology opens up and can make available.
So were you swinging a hammer prior to this? Like, were you building conventional, or that
Well,
was
my,
never
my
part?
director of construction was, I was, and I had my solar company. So I've often been on the business side. Apparently, I always thought it was fourth, but a fifth generation entrepreneur. So the insanity runs deep in ours. And it's, okay, you know what? If I'm going to build something, I want to build it for myself. It's like, I'm going to build it because, probably some version of ego. I want it done, but I can see it needing to be done a particular way, and I want to believe it. So if I'm going to invest that time and energy in it, it's like, okay, having the insanity and the willingness to follow it through.
Yeah, I think you and I suffer that same mindset. The quintessential entrepreneur. There's never a shortage of opportunities, but do you find that it's hard for you to focus on one and take it to fruition?
No, I mean, that was a lot of the training I had in my 20s with landmark education, was the ability just to manage things very succinctly, having a plan and being able to manage multiple components while being accountable for all of it. So that was a skill learned over a couple of decades of training and practice, where now it's not so bad. It's just it's knowing what I do best, and then also building the team and managing but empowering them to do that work. And that's really the big key. Is the only way you can do it is you have to have teams. So in the solar company, I have teams and people are doing that. So I'm just managing my responsibilities, my bits and pieces, but a lot of times it's just more working with those high level point people to manage all the minutiae beyond that. For them, they have multiple components underneath that. So yeah, I have to understand it all, but delegate it to the team members. And that's really been the key.
So within the hierarchy of your company, where do you sit? Are you like the CEO, vice president, president? Is there an official title?
I really consider myself more the COO and founder. My responsibility is really the operations, everything from sales to fulfillment to everything. At the moment, we do have a CFO who's helped us build a lot of it out. So we've slowly had the teams for it, but really for the moment, I would say I'm more the COO.
Was there a point in this evolution that you realized that it couldn't be all about you, that you had, and we already talked about this briefly, that you were wise enough to start delegating authority and you were surrounding yourself with the people that could do it? Because I find with some
Pretty
builders,
quickly.
they feel like they have to do everything. And I think that's the path to disaster, because they're trying to put out fires everywhere, nothing gets done.
I'm always reminded, my father was a business coach for many years. Early 20s, he had me read the E-Myth. And it's out. Yep. Okay. Don't build a technician job for yourself or have it. But that I would say that's one of those lessons that I learned very early, to know if you're going to have something work, it's a
Yeah.
business only if if it makes money without you having to be there. Otherwise, it's just some version of a job.
And all too often, builders learn it the hard way. It's kind of funny. Michael Gerber, I interviewed him when the book came out. And
Wow.
That was a lot of fun. And the thing that really stands out that I really hope builders take away from this is if they deconstruct their business, if they actually look at the hours, take your net pay, for example, and you know this, I'm sure, take your net pay divided by the amount of hours that you're doing everything, it probably works out to something like 50, $60 an hour if you're lucky. And I would think that the average builder thinks that they're worth $200, $300. But when they see that, that's like reality hitting them in the face. And I think that's the wake up call. Once you realize this is holy jumping, I don't need to be doing secretarial work. I don't need to be putting bids out. I can be delegating all that. And that gives you, in your case, you've discovered this, the opportunity now to actually go out and make the money because you're the rainmaker.
I mean, of other people that are doing that, it's always the what's my most profitable time spent. Sometimes it's prospecting, sometimes it's helping with the bids. It could be a little bit of anywhere right now. And I know at the moment that's where it's at. And as the company grows, we'll have people that are doing those and knowing, okay, well, yeah, that's $25 an hour work, but right now I have 30 minutes, I can go do that. It's knowing that, but then having that clarity of knowing, okay, when that time comes, we'll bring that person on, having those micro maps all built out of all the different tasks that they'll do that, like you said, it's $25 an hour in NERC. I shouldn't be doing it. My my director of construction shouldn't be doing it. It's okay. What are those things? So those are the fun things we look forward to as we grow, is building that team.
Do you think there's an element of ego involved that it's hard for some people to let go because they think no one can do it better than they can?
I mean, I think ego is definitely a part of it. And again, it's the difference between a business owner and somebody who just has started a business. Is you might be able to do it at 100%, but if you can find two people that can do it at 50 or 60%, and you can train them up to be 70, 80, 90% eventually, well, that's how you can grow. So it's really just I think it's also probably the appetite a little bit, because there is a risk. It's a trust, because yeah, nobody can do it better, but very few people are able to document and be able to say how they were able and train somebody and how they were able to do it so well. I think that's probably the biggest gap is, yeah, you can do it well, but can you replicate yourself? And that's what I did for consulting for a lot of years, is help companies grow sales team, management teams. And it was always come down to, how do you replicate your top performers? What are they doing that's well? What are their tasks? Whether it could be just a process, manual, or personality. And I think that's probably the biggest gap, less than ego, is how do I find, and not the not knowing how to hire and train somebody to do that work. And then also because then you're a manager less than you are the doer. And that's a whole different skill set for a lot of people, and business owners or otherwise.
Yeah, I think you kind of said it without saying it. It's that whole concept of what's your highest and best use. It's like an appraisal concept. Again, getting back to $20 an hour work versus I could be doing $200 an hour work and growing the company. It reminds me when I first got into real estate. That was back in 1989 is when I first got licensed, and I was doing new home builds or sales, sorry. And my broker introduced me to the developer, and really nice old Italian guy, and he couldn't read English, but he was a multi-millionaire. And what he discovered really early was he didn't have to know all the answers. He just needed to know the people that did. And he surrounded himself with those people. And if anything came up, they were always one phone call away. And so that was something that always stuck with me. It's not about me, again, taking the ego out of the equation, knowing what the answers are. It's knowing the people that have the answers that I can get them when I need them.
And I think you said it's if you're going to be a business owner, you're going to have an ego, and it's not about getting rid of it because it's never going to go anywhere, but it's being able to acknowledge it and set it aside. And it's like, okay, yep, there's the ego side, but yes, I can do it better. But then the willingness, and there is a risk to trust that other person, but then it's almost, you can even, from a little trick is you can always say, okay, you have the ego of being able to have them succeed. And like that becomes the ego side of it, from a way to create an empowering context around one's ego. It's okay, well, now I can really prove that not only can I do it, but I can help somebody else win it. It's like a way of shifting that same mindset, because as I've learned, the ego is not going to go anywhere, and I have to make sure I'm never coming from it. But it's also just there as a tool if I'm consciously choosing it, of, okay, that internal ego of, okay, I can do this in a way where I can make sure somebody else also succeeds. And that becomes kind of that next goal. And it's like almost like that, not my ego, but almost like my kind of not reputation, but just like my intention, the opportunity to really fulfill that. And again, when you succeed, there is quote unquote an ego, but it's also just pretty damn exciting when you have somebody else succeed. The ego, but also the excitement, and have that be that rush or the adrenaline versus just closing the sale or versus doing the other work. Like that becomes almost that reward when you train somebody and they're able to do that. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's even more rewarding.
I think the ego does play part of the equation because you need that drive as an entrepreneur because you wouldn't have the ability to take risks without it. It's, without getting too deep into psychology, Carl Jung kind of talked about the evil dark side of men. We've got this demon, if you will, and it's not a matter of being fearful of it. It's recognizing that you have it. Now, how do I channel that to use it for, like a Superman movie, for the force of good and justice? And I think without that, you would never be a good businessman because you would crumble at every obstacle that came into your path.
Well, I think the biggest key to that is you have to have self-awareness. And it's something you have to learn. Sometimes you can get trained in at certain places if you're lucky enough to develop it. That over time is, like you just said, it's the self-awareness of the ego and the self-awareness of your strengths, of your weaknesses. That's something oftentimes is only learned through experience and making mistakes and not risks. But you have to be very just true to yourself and like own it to know how to and what actions do you take and how do you put yourself in the best or where you want to step aside and you're not victim of it. And I think that's, if I were to say what's the access to that, it's self-awareness. Very hard thing to learn.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that School of Hard Knocks that you pick it up along the way. And that either catapults you forward into success or you live a life of second guessing yourself of all the things that could have been, but never were.
Living in your mind versus living in your word or the future.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's something you mentioned earlier there about helping to raise people up. Is that kind of part of the corporate culture that you have? Actually, before I ask that question, how many people are actually in your company?
Well, again, there's different companies. There's the solar company. There's the call center. There's my 3D printing company. So I have different companies and entities that oftentimes can feed to each other. So there's a lot of different people in a lot of different roles. And a 3D printing company of, Tony's a full-time employee and a lot of partners that we're working with, not counting the vendors or the referral partners in that industry. Solar, I have our install team, my partner in there, our salespeople, their people underneath them. On the call center, I have my partner there and our dialers. And so there's a lot of different teams and components, and it's every single one of them. It's like, okay, there's an at stakeness. Like their livelihood is on my shoulders, but it's my responsibility. And I take that on. And I think that's the insanity of the business owners, that if you're truly willing to build it, you're taking on having people put their trust in you at that level. And it's a high level of accountability and not stress for some people, but a high level of risk, willing, I guess I'll just say, like, willing to take that on. And I think, there not many people can do that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. You said responsibility. It's almost like you're a parent and these are all your children that you're taking care of and you want to see them all succeed. So to that end, is there any kind of motivation that you use with them, profit share, bonuses? How do you keep them inspired and wanting to be part of the company? And more importantly, wanting to be growing the company with you?
I mean, it always starts at the beginning of, okay, well, here's what we're building. Everything we're trying to do it distinctly in a way that has differentiators. Obviously, the 3D printing company or how we sell solar, the install, just everything. We try to make sure we're doing it distinctly because there's other people doing it. So what do we do different? Obviously, the comp packages are always there depending on what their accountability is, what their time put in is. So the comp package is there, but the motivation is, before I hire somebody, I want to know, like, what are they up to in life? What matters to them? Are they young and want to start a family? Do they want to be able to travel? Do they have a mortgage and kid payments? Like, what is it that they're up to that they have at stake? And whatever it is that their job is, like, by doing a great job there, that gives them the opportunity to take care of what matters to them, their family, or save up for a house, whatever it happens to be. Because I'm also a mortgage loan officer as well. So there's always, helping people build up of what does it take to buy a home.
The mortgage side of things, you did that during COVID. So when most people are watching Netflix and gaining 30 or 40 pounds, you decided that you wanted to get into finance. Like, what was the bell that rang in your head to say, yeah, let's go down that path?
So it was with my solar company. I realized that this is back when rates were 2% and 3%. And I realized, wait a second, people could, just with the financing options that are out there, it became one of the best options out there. And I realized at the beginning of COVID, well, nobody else in the country really was doing it. So I had to be, figure again, okay, I'm going to do it. It's like nobody else figured that out. So I created the nation's first solar refi program because it gave access to other things.
Explain it. So a refi program, meaning what? They're trading in old solar for new?
No, they had no solar on their home. So rather than just buying the solar, getting the loan, they would bundle it into their mortgage.
Okay. Just like buyers, when they're buying a used home, they want to upgrade the furnace or HVAC, they'll factor that in and pay an extra $10 a month versus dropping 10 or 15 grand to do it separately. That kind of
Yeah,
idea.
it's bundled into the mortgage. They get their tax credit right away. The equity gets added to the house, and then also kind of bundle in other debts if they have credit cards or something else like that on top of it. So they could consolidate the debt and lower their mortgage. So it was the idea of saving all that in together. So that's kind of how that started, and then it just evolved into being able to do more in that industry till obviously rates change, but still have that as a tool in the basket when the time comes.
So is that a component of what you're doing now with 3D printing? You've got the finance component.
We do have a finance component in there. It's just because it was a newer technology. Been back in September of 23. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac said that 3D printed construction is considered standard construction. So it is available all around, but it was still fairly new. Being a loan officer, partnered with a group that helped create some of the first construction permanent loans for 3D printing.
Okay. We've kind of danced around the edge of, this is your core competency of 3D homes. Kind of for people that are new to it, like when I first heard about this, I I had this vision of like little Lego bricks. It's like Keebler elves were putting this thing together. And then I actually saw a video of the big extrusion arms and how this thing comes to be. So talk to me like I'm 6. Walk me through the process of the 3D printed home.
I mean, so there's about 3 to 5 different technologies really out there in the world. And again, it's just layer by layer. So a lot of times when people see them, they have this nice, long, rigid layer because they just print it in layers. One gap with many companies is they're only able to do about 3 to 12 inches. So that's 3 to 12 layers a day. Then they have to stop, do a cold joint stop. So when you see these buildings, a lot of time it took weeks or longer to sometimes build those. But it's, again, the same concept as you just kind of stacking it on. And it's essentially building a concrete home in the simplest way. One unique thing about our technology, without getting into the weeds, is we're able to do 10-foot tall walls in a single day in one continuous extrusion. A lot of proprietariness, a lot of nuances to how we're doing it, but that's the key. So it becomes one solid wall, and it saves you time, gives you a lot of opportunities for efficiency. But there's distinctions for engineering and a lot of nuances to it. That's the simplistic way of saying it. Is you're literally just printing layer by layer till you build something up. And there's a lot of ways that different companies do the windows and doors without obviously getting into the weeds, but that's the simplistic way of doing it. Rather than we think of building from the inside, you build a stick frame out, it's almost like you build the outside in.
So you start off with, let's say, no basement, you got a concrete pad. This big gnarly machine comes in, and it's a big arm, literally almost like a concrete arm. And rather than pouring concrete, it's
Some of
this.
them. That's some of the tech.
Is that what you guys are
Ours
using?
is
Or
on a gantry system, so we're able to do a much larger footprint
so when
versus
you're
just the arms that can do only that small little area. That's one of the few technologies out there.
so when you're doing your 10-foot high as 10 feet, do you need any kind of framing or forms? Way cool. Okay.
No, I
So
know it's again that's part of the art of it. It's how do you build it up that way, and that's our unique thing to the market, which is why you won't find a lot of the videos for our prints online, because again, it's still a lot of proprietariness to it. So you'll be able to see, all right, before there's nothing, and here's what it is after, and the how to. Again, that's the golden goose. So we're protecting that the nuances of that IP, because it's a lot of fun of figuring it out. It's a growing industry over the next 10 years. There's going to be a lot of things to figure out. So want to try to keep what you can secret while you can.
yeah, without getting into the secret sauce, is part of this the actual mix, if you will, that it hardens faster, giving you the ability to go up higher?
Can't quite get into that, but I mean the mixture, cement is concrete is cement, lime, and sand. So there are proportions, there are things in the mixture, but there's a lot to it for when you're building something at that level. But there's a lot of factors you have to take into account too, where you're printing too. And if you're printing in Florida versus Texas, that's two very different environments. So that's the science that goes with the art, is the how to with that.
And part of the magic that you don't want to tell me how the trick is done. Okay, so I get it. I respect that.
There will be a time.
Yeah. Well, there'll be a time, because it'll be ancient technology and we've jumped so far forward that you'll look back and probably laugh at, oh, that's the way we used to do it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. I get it. So how do you, in essence, work with a builder? So somebody approaches a builder, they say, hey, we want to build a new home. Is it typical that a buyer will say, I'm looking for a 3D printed home? Are you hoping that the builder is going to drive
I would say probably not, because most of them don't even know it's a possibility.
Okay, so how do you even get the word out? How does that process even start with getting the consumer interested?
The simple way is we're going a different way rather than trying to do it that. A lot of it we just do internally, but we find developers that have land that they're looking to go vertical on versus builders. I mean, we can work with builders, but the distinct part is we'd have to consult with them throughout the entire process because it's not how they're used to building homes. So if we're working with the builder, it's somebody that, okay, I really want to learn this and implement it over time. Because for the first 2 or 3 builds, we'll have to be there the entire time, kind of walking through a different flow chart. It's an entirely different build process with a lot of the same trades, but then the timing of who goes when and how, because of how to do it. Because obviously you're not doing roughings the same way of, you were going through the side. So it's a whole different process that once they learn it, it's great. But the big key is we're also the architect. So we design with that budget in mind, and it gives us a distinct leg up because we know how to design for the maximum capabilities of 3D printing, design with all that in mind, and being the designer and the builder, there's a lot of time saving that you get going back and forth. So if we work with a builder, it's somebody that wants to really dive in and not just do 1 or 2, but it's like for that development, it's for the time dedication for it. It's somebody that wants to build that long-term relationship of, okay, we see it, we see how it can happen, and they want it. Again, as you can imagine, a lot of time and a lot of disclosures that have to happen with it. So we're just very picky on that. And thankfully, we're lucky enough to have a lot of good opportunities just in-house and with our team and our board and people that have put it all together that we don't necessarily need to prospect that the age-old way.
So on a cost per square foot, is it fair to say what you're doing in terms of the material side would probably cost more, but the real savings would be on the manpower side because you can put up a house a lot faster than traditional stick built?
Depends on what you're building. I mean, if you're trying to build the I don't say affordable housing, I'm going to call it low cost to build housing. You can always build it cheaper. This is very, lower quality products or inexpensive there. But the difference with ours is it's a healthier home. It reduces it's mold free, mildew free, fireproof, floodproof, mold proof, energy efficient. So that's really what our technology and what they're built for. We're not trying to necessarily compete with the lowest cost build yet, maybe at some point. But we're out to build a distinct type of home. For somebody to build the same type of home as we do, it would cost them more. Also, it's just taken longer. I mean, time, labor, and materials are where we save money on. And the biggest thing is your carry costs become a lot less, which isn't factored into cost per square foot. I mean, if you're able to do it in 1 to 2 months or more less, that's a big decent amount you're saving on carry costs that isn't inherently factored into the cost per square foot. So if I were to say, if somebody were to try to build the same quality that we inherently do at a cost per square foot, we would be as much or less. But still, masonry build, a 3D printed building is considered a masonry construction. So it inherently carries a 30% appraisal increase over stick built.
When you first started doing this, I take it was in Colorado. Is that where the test case would be? Was there any kind of resistance, like municipal governance, building codes, that kind of stuff? Because it's something new. Were there
Everybody
hurdles?
always asks that question. It's a great question. And this is something that Robert August helped do. So whenever we're going to a new jurisdiction, we'll do a lunch and learn or a Zoom, and we take the time to educate them ahead of, hey, we're going to be coming in with the project. I want to share with you, here's what it looks like. And it all meets and exceeds code. So it's not in that sense. It's tying it to what they're familiar with and what they're not. And here's how we figured out to make this easy for you. And one, they're usually pretty appreciative of that. And two, they usually seem to be pretty excited about it coming through because it's not the same old things that they're doing. It's not the same old stick built. It's a cool thing. So a lot of them have been very, very supportive and very eager about it.
Have you got the first one up in Colorado?
We broke ground and we plan on 3D printing in about a month.
Excellent. So this would be the first one
in Colorado.
Yeah, you must be pretty excited about that.
Very excited.
Yeah. Wow. In terms of
you have to come over and see it.
Well, I'm kind of thinking if it was later in the year, like ski season, yeah, that wouldn't.
Well, we're going to be doing site visits throughout the whole part. The homeowner that bought it is a mold and mildew specialist, and that's why he's so excited about the home for his son. His son has a chronic inflammatory response syndrome, CIRS, and to rebuild in this home there's no drywall, even on other parts of it, there's no plywood. The idea of it is it's a home that eliminates or greatly, as much as possible, minimizes the risk of mold buildup in a home, because apparently 25% of Americans have the genome that makes them susceptible to CIRS. And once you get exposed to molds or VOCs, and once you unfortunately are succumb to it, there's no cure for it. There's just a lot of management. So he's very excited about the home and is making the home. We'll be able to do showcases during the rest of the build and even afterwards, be able to do certain events there to showcase it because it helps his practice and what he does and his real goal and vision of the differences construction can be. So we kind of lucked out on our first client here for specifically this level of product. And that's what we
I never
realized.
realized how prevalent this problem was until, started to do this interview series here, Builder Straight Talk. And I've interviewed two experts in the field, and they're building their focuses on the healthy home. One, Brian Johnson, is actually trying to put together a cadre of builders and doctors and professionals all pulling their resources to, with one focus in mind, how do we build, I don't want to say the perfect home, but the healthiest home we possibly can. And they're breaking ground in just outside of Tucson, will be his first subdivision, if you will. I think it's a total of 33 homes. So I think it's 20, don't get me wrong here, I think 20 and 15 or something like that in two different areas. And he's really excited about that because it's exactly what you're talking about. People are allergic to the mold, off-gassing, whatever the materials are used in the paint, in the fabrics even. I never knew it was so prevalent in the home industry.
Well, it's mostly just been overlooked and not even noticed.
Wow.
That's the biggest thing. Is it's just like people that didn't know the difference, and now that it's seen, it's there. There's a little extra cost. I mean, it's getting wool carpet versus not the underlayment. There's differences, but it's a healthier thing and it's a low maintenance. And if you're it's like power tools, get it once and don't worry about it later. Versus you're going to potentially have to deal with some of those other issues down the road at some point.
Yeah, I was jokingly saying to Brian, it's like, you're talking about building a green home. Well, I'm building this home because I feel good about it versus what you're trying to do is a home I feel good in. There's a difference. One seems to be stroking the ego. The other is about, hey, I want to be healthy. And that's the path that you're going down right now. So, kudos.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Once
It's
this is
great
done,
to hear somebody see that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
well, yeah, it's important because we take it for granted, the ability to breathe without coughing out a lung, and then on top of that, you're raising kids. And it just seems like, when I look back to my childhood, my mother would basically say, it's Saturday morning, she'd kick us out. And in her broken Ukrainian, the expression was, don't come back unless you're dead. Right. So we're out doing whatever kids do, unsupervised, right? Playing with sticks, whatever. It just seems like this generation of kids has been so coddled and wrapped in bubble wrap. They've never been given the ability to get hurt, to get tough. And then I think all that is compounded then inside a home that is making them even more sick than they are. So I think there's like that psychological component, but then the home is actually working on that physical realm of making them more sick than they really are. I think, yeah, you're on the right path, man.
Appreciate it. That's all in on it. So it's just keep moving it forward, and we'll see where it is in a couple years.
So the moving it forward part, once you get this one done in Colorado, what's the process then? Do you have developers that are coming to you? Are you
We have
buying the land?
individual homeowners that have plots of land. And we have developers that we're in conversations with in a couple other places. We can do commercial tilt up, data centers. And there's a lot of applications for this technology. So it's a lot of conversations we've had going too. So, I mean, once they see our personal one here, I'm sure that'll speed up a lot of that too. But we already have a lot of those conversations. Developers, those take a while. The individual homeowners, those are the ones that have been a lot of fun to work with.
Well, that makes you in essence like a custom home builder in that respect, right? They're
Yeah.
paying. Are you getting into, is that something that's even on the radar that you want to get into the spec build of side where you will develop the land or you'll have the developer and then you show up and build 10, 20, 30 homes?
We have that plan. I mean, usually it's less of a spec, and we usually will go in and build a model home or two with the developer, and usually create an agreement for the rest of the development, and then help market this and sell the other developments, and maybe create a couple sample plans so they're able to sell it along with the company that does the design, build of a healthy home. That's the architecture and the GC with the lending option all in house for the rest of their development, using those one or two or three show homes or model homes at the beginning of the development. That's the best way we found working with developers and the least out of capital in their hands, because then they're only covering a couple homes instead of the whole development.
So let's go down that road a bit and let's talk about the capital part of it and your relationship with money. When you're going down that path, are you using your own money? You're hoping the developer will fund the build. How does that work? Because with money, there's opportunity cost. If you're using your own, then that's money that could have been allocated to do something else, which would have driven a bigger return. And I think a lot of builders don't realize this. So let's unpack that a little and tell me about your philosophy of money.
So we have a great partnership with Genesis Capital. The CEO of that sits on my board as well, and he's helped create. We have funding options for developers. So if they have multiple projects, we have ways of helping them get funding for those through some of their lending. Some of them it's private, some of it's institutional, and then for a lot of these, I mean, if it's for the developer doing this, the model home, a lot of times they own the land. So we're helping them maximize the return on the land. So they would get the loan for the model homes or two, but for the rest of the homes, the buyers are the ones that are getting the loan. So by doing it that way, the developer is not at risk of building 20, 30 spec homes. Hey, you get these first one or two, you cover that. We'll help increase all the land value for the rest of these by slowly building them out for you. And then the buyers are getting the construction on the permanent, and it's not on the builder to, or the developer to cover those costs. So that's one ways. I mean, there's always a lot of creative ways, but for the most part, we're not usually the ones that will put in the capital for it. We look to create partnerships with people that have the land and have that, and bring our team and resources together to be able to put together a plan for their overall development that gives them the best return with their goals.
So when you're working with a builder, then I'm still trying to get my head around what that relationship is. The builder, we've got a developer, he's the one that actually clears the land, sets it, it's ready for you to go. Or is the developer the one that has the land, builder comes in, does the infrastructure, and then that's where you guys step in to then build on top of a basement or on top of a pad. And at
Well,
that
we can
point,
also 3D print basements and foundations, by the way.
okay.
So
So,
we could do a lot of ways. We also can do the horizontal too. So again,
okay.
it depends on where they're at.
I'm trying to look at that relationship between you and the conventional builder. What is it that you specifically do? What is it that they specifically do?
Well, because we're not just the builders, we're the builder and the architect. So the big thing is like that's a big difference. And we can do horizontal. We can do horizontal, and we can do vertical, and we can do the design. So we can do any of those components. So it gives us the flexibility for all of that, if that makes sense. So we're not stuck in having to do it one way or the other. So each developer, each opportunity, we're flexible. And okay, well, you already have this person, you already have somebody doing the horizontal. Well, we can do the vertical and the design. Or you need somebody to do all of it. We can do all of it. You need somebody who has the real estate partner. We can put that in place. So it's each development, and as it comes in, we look and see with our partnership and our resources, what needs to happen.
Okay.
And what resources of what we do best can we contribute for the overall opportunity.
All right. I'm still trying to get my head around that symbiotic relationship, because if I'm the builder and I'm calling you guys and I say,
Well, again, usually we're the builders.
yeah,
So a lot of times we don't inherently work with builders.
okay,
Usually
okay,
we're working with the developer that needs the builder, and we are the builder. So a lot of times it's like we're not, I mean, occasionally a builder may reach out, but that's a very different relationship, because again, it's changing their entire business model and structure from stick built to this. It's a completely different model.
okay, got it. I'm comparing this to, I did an interview with a builder. His name was Kyle Bobbitt, and he's in North Carolina, and he's now trying to bring 3D printed homes into North Carolina. So he's where you were, trying to get through all the red tape, getting people to understand there's a better way of doing things. And there's a lot of pushback on the governance level. So I'm trying to, in my mind, he is a conventional builder, yet he's bringing in this whole concept of 3D printed, but he won't actually be building them. He'll just be sitting in a lazy boy chair, drinking beer and watching it go up. Again, I'm just trying to figure out what the participation is with the builder versus you guys are doing it all.
I mean, that's the big thing. So if we're working with the builder, it's a much longer, long-term relationship. It's not a simple thing. I mean, that's for those relationships, because it's okay, well, we can be your designer. We can train you to use this technology, but they really would have to change a lot of their philosophies, or at least as an offering, because it's almost like if you have a door-to-door team, it operates as a separate entity, as its own division, I guess you can call it. So it's from a builder standpoint, not to say we can't, but it's okay. We could do the foundations for them. There's a lot of things we could potentially do for a builder. Depends on what their goals are, what they want to build. I mean, if they're just trying to build the lowest cost homes, may not make the right sense. So it's because we do both of those things. If a builder's coming to us, it would just be, we'd have to figure out what they're looking for us to do, because a lot of the build side, they'd have to get trained on how to do 3D printing right from the GC side.
So maybe the better question is, I don't mean to make this sound callous. Do you even care? Are home builders even part of the equation for what you're doing? It's like you have your own franchise and you're moving forward. Are they even
Essentially, yeah, builders are not our target. If they come up, great, but they are not our target market. It's
okay? Got
developers,
it.
real estate agents, potential home buyers.
Okay, because the other, I don't want to say your competitors, it's a very small market still at this point. I take it in the US. They're looking for symbiotic relationships with builders, and there's some sort of handoff. Whereas with you guys, you can just do it all yourself. So you are the builder in essence. Instead of using nails and wood, you're using 3D printing. Okay,
In that
now I've got it.
simple way. I mean, again, it's not all the
Yeah.
trades, but yeah, you're not doing lumber, you're not doing siding, not doing drywall. It's like a lot of those are just melded into one.
Got it. Okay. So in reality, then, if a builder were to partner with you, it would be more in the relationship of a referral. Hey, I've got a client that wants to do this. This is outside of our wheelhouse. Are you guys interested? Would that be
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yeah, and we can do a referral on that one, or if they're interested, they can come and start to learn how to do it. But again, there's a lot of NDAs, confidentiality agreements to learn that side of it.
Okay. Because I'm trying to put myself in the head of a builder who's okay. He stumbles across you. This is really cool. Maybe that's the way I should reframe the question. Let's pretend that you're a traditional builder and have stumbled across Jake's website and you're intrigued by this whole thing of 3D printed home. As that conventional builder, what would be the questions that he would be asking you about how do we work together? Or do you even work together?
Do we? We can. We're not currently not the target. If we find the right builder, we'd be open to it because again, it's a distinct relationship of we do all of it. So it's like none of what we do they would right away be able to do. So they could bring the
Okay.
client, we could train that side of it, and again from not just the walls, but then how you put the rest of the home together, the timing, and how those trades actually have to do that work. It all changes.
I think I've got a better way of looking at this. You guys already have your all-star rock band. You're touring. You really don't need another band to be up on stage with you because you've already got your act dialed in. Is that fair?
Again, inherently, yes, like that's where we're at. So it's like,
Okay.
would we take on doing somebody else? Sure, if it was the right opportunity, but not our biggest and best use, as we talked about earlier.
Okay. Got it. So let's lane change. You get out of there altogether. We've talked about the pushback that you were getting in Colorado, but you seem to have tackled that. Let's go back into the healthy home aspect of this. Is there any kind of concern with the materials that you're dealing with? I know concrete does off gas. Does your stuff do any of that, or it's done by time people move in?
I mean, it's done by the time people move in. And again, that's where having a health and wellness doctor who's extremely concerned about those types of things, being the perfect spokesperson for it. And we'll be getting a lot of specific data and testing throughout the process as well. But of all the things that are out there, yes, there is off gassing, but like anything else, long before they move in. And that's part of that timing that we make sure of with it.
Okay. So, how would, if I were to rank 3D printed homes against modular construction, against traditional stick construction, is there a hierarchy? Like, would you say one's better? And obviously, I think you would slant more towards 3D, but is there a reason one is better than the other? And why would that be?
Modular potentially for it. I mean, modular of the quality. Again, it all depends on the quality of the stick build too, and the quality of the 3D printing. You know, it's there's more than just the walls itself. But I mean, if you were building the same thing, same 200 square foot home between all of them, modular and 3D printed would be the quickest. Modular might be the least expensive. Stick maybe a little bit more, but with 3D printing, again, for that same cost per dollar, cost per amount, you'd be getting a distinct home. That's it's masonry versus their less maintenance. So it's a lot of the. I mean, are there really benefits for stick built? I mean, there are times where it might be a little cheaper.
You
I mean,
said
maybe, but
200.
the
So,
time wise, it's probably going to take longer to do than modular or 3D printing. So I'd probably say if it's time, modular is the quickest, 3D printing is the second, stick built's the third. Cost wise, I'd say modular is probably the cheapest with stick or 3D printing, depending on what you do. 2 and 3, quality and top notch. 3D printing, stick built, modular. Because modular, there's such a range of modular, and it always has to do with the stitching and everything else. So that's why I just say it's a range of with that or the quality of the stick built that you're building there. But healthiness, 3D printing, energy efficiency, 3D printing just inherently because it's a distinct higher quality build.
Is there a sweet spot right now that you guys are building in that respect, or do you have a vision of like it's going to be 1,400 square foot, 4 bedroom bungalow type home? Like, is there for you guys the perfect home that you would like to build?
It's less an individual. I mean, usually I could say that the higher, I wouldn't say in luxury, but the higher end homes of people that want to just spend a little bit more to get those healthy things. Again, depends on where they're building and how many we're building. If it's a one-off, it's always going to be a little bit more. If there's multiple that we're doing in an area, that price drops there. But I would say our target markets is the ones that want a healthier long-term home that they're not going to have to worry about maintaining. Could be built for rent, but it's the bigger, the easier. In all honesty, like the higher end homes, those are much easier and the savings gets a heck of a lot better on those versus stick built.
Do you see you guys stepping into the market to be? You said you're looking at the higher end homes, but as a
Those are
solution,
easiest.
yeah. I'm just wondering, is there a play to be made here when you come into a city and they're looking for obtainable housing as opposed to affordable housing, but to
I'd
be
say
able to build?
usually that, unfortunately. Only because we're talking low quality build. It's low cost to build. It's low quality versus, and that's the big difference. It's like, if we're going to do it, it's going to cost a little bit more, but it's going to be something you're not going to have to worry about. And that's the part that it's been like the tough part of us to like really get. I think at some point when we dial a lot of it in, that may be more of an option. But for right now, I mean, they're not particularly profitable unless you own the land and you're making your money on the land. With the water costs, those are just not, unfortunately, very profitable. And that's the hard part as a growing company and builder. You just don't make much money on a lot of those projects. And they're really, really, really tight budgets.
So you just said something there, just piqued my attention. So is part of this the cost of production right now is going to be, I don't want to say relatively high, but it is what it is. It's higher than normal. It's because you haven't really dialed it in terms of the quantity of homes that you're building. And once you hit that mark, whatever critical mass, if you will, that's when costs start to shift because you're more predictable what you're doing and they can be more cost effective. Is that fair to say?
I mean, it could be, but it's also always going to be where the market is, and just the soft cost to start in a market where it's okay. Well, what's affordable or what's attainable, and what those standards are for a lot of places, and it always comes down to the land. I mean, that's really what it comes down to is the cost for the land. Can they make money on the land versus? I mean, we're cost plus, so our cost is our cost. It's for the builder. Is it worth them to build a $500,000 home versus a $400,000 built home that can sell for $150,000, $200,000 more? Does the market accept that? So it's just finding and being very picky about where those are versus just trying to, okay, well, we know the market here is 600,000. We can't build anything that would go above it. And we want to stick to a certain standard of build on it, at least for the foreseeable future, not just for the overall cost, but what is it really going to take to master building consistent, healthy homes? And how can we bring that to market? Even if it may end up being a little bit more than what most people are considering affordable, if we can figure that out at a volume scale, that's really, when we do that, that's where we think we will be able to play into that market. But for the beginning time, we want to stick in, like you said, the smartest lane for us that we know can make the quickest and best difference instead of trying to do it super tight.
Yeah, I was going to use the analogy of like the flat screen TVs when they first came out. And, as they're thundering down the conveyor belt, it's like 1 in 20 actually worked, and that's why they were $7,000, $8,000. And in the back of my mind I'm thinking, thank goodness for rich people, because for them, they're the ones that are spending the $7,000 or $8,000 on that one screen while the proof of concept and everything else is happening in the background. Then it gets
That's
to that point where the public can jump in because the manufacturer now has dialed it in, so it's no longer 1 in 20, it's maybe 15 and 20 are actually perfect. And so now costs have come down. So again,
that's great. That's the perfect analogy. I mean, that's the perfect
okay.
analogy for it. And again, maybe not that much more, but there's a specific market that we know it caters to, and it's very easy to do. And then as that gets fine tuned over time, and we figure out, or maybe jurisdictions make it easier in certain places too, to start doing that. Like that's a great way to say it. And that's our hope. We don't know, but that's exactly our hope. So thank you for that. It's a perfect analogy I'm going to use in the future.
That being said, so what do you think what's the biggest obstacle then holding you guys back from being from coast to coast?
The right part and the right opportunities. I mean, everybody wants to be able to build, but everybody still wants to build for cheap and find the right people that want to build that right way and have it grow. And now that's really what's the difference. And that's what's been figured out and dialed in. It's really starting to open up a lot of those doors. It's finding the right opportunities. We can do it anywhere, but what's really the right ones that's worth our time, that we know would be profitable for us, for the builder, for the developer, for everybody. It's good for the homeowner. It's like making sure we pick the right ones. A lot of people have these big visions, but then it's like not where we want to invest. It's something's off with it. So it's finding the right opportunities is really the big country.
They don't want to put their toe in the water first. I guess they're waiting, as you said, you guys catch the arrows first and prove to us that this works. Is that
and sometimes it's just finding the right developments that have the right numbers. Like they're thinking the land is worth way more than it really is, or they're wanting to build something for way less than what would be profitable, or it's finding that target market of what the potential sale price of the billboard. So it's just finding those ones there, the opportunity and the numbers are all in a good place and people aren't upside down. So it's finding those right things for us of, okay, we know we can do it. And there's, our whole team has a lot of those kind of going off, and that's where we've been taking our time on those ones, because those are not quick moving problems.
Part of this too being that you guys aren't part of the public consciousness. It's like you don't know you need a seatbelt till you go through the windshield. People don't know they need a healthy home, or better still, that this is an alternative to conventional builds, because enough people aren't aware that this is a possibility.
Perfect. I mean, I think you said it, there's people just don't know. Like they think it's there, but they don't know it's actually a reality, which when you're starting a business, you have two things. It's either you're doing something that everybody else does and you're trying to get an existing market share, or you bring something new and you have to educate people about what you do, that it's possible. So we're kind of like, we're taking a market share up with doing something new. So it's kind of taking it from a little bit of each, of finding the ones that are kind of, that are ready to start. Okay, the technology's there, it's working, they're willing to take that risk. And the risk reward is now finally at a point where it's like, okay, it all makes sense. It's backed by lending. It's from a traditional sense, if that makes sense. I guess that's the best way I'm kind of fine to explain it. And this is the fun joy.
Yeah, most will approach this as we're trying to build a better mousetrap, right? But you guys are approaching it from, we're going to show you how to get rid of mice altogether. It's not even going to be an issue. And that's where I see the difference is, right? Like the better mousetrap is, okay, we'll bend this and bend that. You'll be able to catch that mouse faster. But you guys are saying we're trying to get rid of mice being part of the issue. And if I draw that back to health, you're saying, rather than like, there's a little bit here we can do, a little bit there we can do, we're coming in with a total solution that as soon as you step in through the threshold, you won't have to worry about health again.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It flies in the face of what people are familiar with or what no. That's a great way of saying it. And it's letting people know it actually does exist and it's real, versus it's not, the conceptual. And obviously when we do ours here, which is the first one that has all these components to it, that'll be the grand marquee, the flagship that showcases it all.
There was a British radio comedy, and it was a trilogy, even though it was 4 books. And it was called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Don't forget a towel.
All right. So we both have a eclectic reading list. Where I'm going with this is there's that one scene where the planet Earth is going to be destroyed and the intergalactic bulldozers are there. And there's this big, glorious loudspeaker that when the guy talks into it, everyone across the planet can hear this in their native tongue. If you were up front of that microphone, what's that message that you'd want to be able to convey that's going to wake people up to what you're presenting them?
There's a new way of building homes in the 21st century, and it's here.
That's akin to saying you've got a better hamburger. It's got to be deeper than that. It's got to be deeper. What's going to get my attention? Here's an example. We're at, you're in Colorado. What's the biggest sports arena in Denver is what?
I always still call it Mile High Stadium.
Okay, and how many people? 5,000, 10,000?
76,000.
76,000? Okay, 76,000 people are sitting there drinking beer. They're waiting for, football, whatever it's going to be. And somebody gets on the loudspeaker and says, hey, there's a car out there. You left your lights on. No one cares. Versus, hey, anybody here own a black BMW? It's on fire. Specific message for a specific market. What would your specific message be for your specific? And I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah,
Jake,
no, this is good. This is good. I mean, I would say
what's that message? Because you've got to wake these people up, because you're saying, hey, we're building a home. Yeah, big deal. So is everybody else on my street. They're building a home.
No,
Why should I pay attention to you?
So I would say we're building homes fit for the 21st century. Are you tired of having your homes at risk for wildfire, flood, mold, mildew, vermin, insects? Well, you can now have homes that are free of all those things. We had a huge fire here a couple of years ago, which is actually where this house is being built. 1,100 homes went up overnight. So I think you can truly have a fireproof and a floodproof, healthy home for your families to live in the future. And it's affordable and it's within your reach and it's actually available now. This is not the future. This is the future now.
That's what you need, man. You got to dial in. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired in your own home? So that's two. Okay.
Michael, that's a good one. I really I like that.
So I've given you the flat screen TV analogy. That should boost your bottom line at least 1.2 to 2 million.
The mousetrap.
Just handed you this one. That's three, man. You should just
That's
put
good,
your arms
man.
around me.
I owe you.
You should just hire me. I'm waiting for the T-shirt to come in the mail for sure.
I might just have to make one of those.
What are we missing, man? We've covered a lot of ground here. Anything that I haven't touched on?
I'm sure we can go on for a while, but no, just get ready. I mean, it's like we'll be revealing certain parts of it as it's coming up. I mean, we are documenting the entire build, so there will be things that can be shown. That there's a lot happening and moving. So stay tuned.
I think that's you said that, and this is the way my brain works. I think in pictures, and then I have to take those pictures and then convert them into words. I think a Krispy Kreme, right? If you what does Krispy Kreme do? Yeah, they make donuts like everybody else makes donuts. But when you go into a store, you see how everything is happening, right? Like how they make the dough, it's floating down the oil, they put on the icing, like you see the process. And I think for you guys, you just touched on it without even realizing it. You need to educate the potential customer out there on the construction style of what you're doing, like the step by step in terms of how much you can reveal, but so they can see the big difference between how you're building a home and what the net result is. And forgive me if you already have that on the website, but I think that, and it's just a matter of taking your friggin' phone and you do little video snippets, because I've been teaching realtors how to do video marketing for the past 15 years. And the biggest hurdle is I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm too hairy, anything with a two out front of it. So my job is to get them over the self-esteem and say, hey, I can actually press this button and talk into the lens.
Be in action.
You guys need to do the same thing, because people respect the authenticity. And I hate that word because it's used so much, but the warts and all approach to what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be done. And I think if you can take them, especially now with this place you're doing in Colorado, I think it's a brilliant opportunity to show them how the cookie is made.
We're actually filming the whole process. We have a large scale of that, but I like even just the little snippet ones too as it's going in. So I like that. I'll add that in.
Yeah. Okay. So that's 5.
I'm
Jake,
sure we'll double it here in another week or two as we keep talking about other stuff.
yeah, I think over a beer. I'm assuming you drink beer as I do. So especially if you know Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Here's one question I'm going to throw at you. It's one that I like to use and I got to stop using it, but it's a good one. I'm going under the premise that you've been interviewed a bunch of times before, people asking you questions. What's that one question that you would wish the person would ask you that you've never been asked?
What's the best advice you've ever got?
Jake, what's the best advice you ever got?
Love. For my mom. Just love.
Unconditional.
Love what you do. Love who you're with. Just have it all come from love.
We talked about Robert at the beginning, Robert August. And I had the pleasure of interviewing him, I'm going to say about 3 weeks ago. And for those of you watching in right now, if you go to the Builder Straight Talk site, scroll down, you'll see him, Builder Straight Talk, Robert August. And we talked about marketing and all kinds of things that are related to building. I asked him the question that you're at St. Peter's Gate and St. Peter's got a tablet and he's going through your life story. And it's like, oh, yeah. And then he pulled Robert over. He says, I'm looking at this. You can't go in yet. And Robert looks at him and says, well, what did I do? It's not what you did. It's what you haven't done yet. What's that thing you haven't done yet?
I don't know if there's a one, but I hope that I have a long time to do it, because I don't want that to be done till my time is up. So whatever it is, it's something to keep doing, keep contributing for the world until there's nothing else left for me to contribute that. Whenever that is and whenever my time's up, that's when that'll be done.
I'll give you a pass on that one, Jake. That's not bad. Under pressure, I'll say that's not bad. If they want to find out more about you, where can they go?
They can go to cldesignandbuild.com. You can always just contact us there. You can always reach out to me personally on my website for my email, jakew@consciousec.com.
And we'll have all this in the show notes so they can reach out to you directly. Hey, Jake, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for taking time out today, my friend. And I look forward to coming out to Colorado and checking this place out.
Look forward to it, Michael.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our sponsor, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.